Hey, welcome to the Votary podcast. We're a team of filmmakers based in New England who are passionate about storytelling. We talk about the impact that stories have in every part of our lives, from business to culture and everything in between. Thanks for joining us.
All right, so we were supposed to have Jamin on the podcast, but Berlin just sat in his chair, and I'm just rolling with it because I don't know.
That's who we are here.
Life can be boring. This is interesting.
Open that in the mic so we can get it as a sound effect.
This is actually a very satisfying sound, so I'm about to gift the listeners.
Shh, everyone quiet, because this could be used for future projects.
Juicy.
Oh, it like exploded on the microphone. Oh, this is a sour beer, but it's like a
Milk.
it looks
It's gone.
red.
It looks like it's gone
raspberry.
bad.
No, it's like
It's got blood in it. It's so weird.
yeah, it's like red. It looks like wine.
Andy's drunk.
That's all it takes.
We're getting some Pond 5 level sound effects here
Yeah.
from Mike.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
Okay.
this episode we could all do little sound effects that could be monetized for future use.
So initially, I was gonna be like, we should talk about the last 2 weeks and Empowered and all that job and everything, and then I was like, no, we shouldn't do it. We should talk about the concept of the anti-hero. That's what I was thinking. And I was thinking about that, and then last night watched War Dogs, and how that was kind of a good example of the anti-hero like working almost. And then we were like feeling really like on a high from that movie, and then right away it was like #1 in the US. I care a lot. And it's like it's about like a con woman and everything, and so we just went right into that movie. And that movie is a perfect example of how not to do the anti-hero, I think. Have you guys seen that?
Nope.
Haven't seen either of those.
Well,
I've seen War Dogs.
Oh, okay, that's helpful.
That's a good one.
so homework for next episode is to watch
is that
I
the-
Care a Lot.
Oh, okay. Not War Dogs.
No, I'm not doing that.
Well, no, you should.
I care a lot. Oh, it's good?
No.
Okay.
It's not. But
I refuse
I want
to
to
waste
talk. I want to talk about it so bad because it's just ridiculous that you're.
All right.
I couldn't tell what the tone was. It was like, are we supposed to, like, is it a satire? Is it a joke? Because it says like, I care a lot. Am I supposed to care a lot about the main character? And it's set up like you are supposed to, but she's a total sociopath, manipulative con woman who has no redemptive qualities, and it's a bummer.
Into the mic, please.
Yeah.
Total wasted opportunity.
Oh.
We had a beer on the table for Jamin. Oh, God, hold on.
That's a good one. That was crisp.
Oh, it's all foam. And Berlin sat in for Jamin. She had this beer sitting in front of her.
And we don't condone underage drinking.
What a great...
Okay.
Why don't we do our intros real quick that way now that
Oh, I thought we did that. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know when... We never know when these things are actually starting. So
I thought it already started.
Yeah.
so we got Mike.
I'm Mike.
Mike's head of marketing.
And he loves this movie. I care a lot.
And that's
It's
Jono.
his favorite movie.
Jono, the creative director.
Yo, I do some film and some edits.
And then first time appearance, we have Berlin. Berlin's our in-house photographer.
Hello.
Give us a couple shutter sound effects. If you can.
That actually that feels good.
That's very satisfying.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it so satisfying?
The main reason I haven't gone mirrorless.
Oh, nice.
And I'm Cody, head of operations. And now we can continue on into the anti.
All right,
So
what-
homework for next week is to watch Jack and Jill.
I actually would love to talk about Jack and Jill. My favorite YouTubers, the Red Letter Media guys, they talk about Adam Sandler movies and Jack and Jill, and they kind of pointed out how that movie is like basically an Adam Sandler scam, just to make his friends money, and it's hilarious.
I
And
feel like
I really think that's accurate.
I think that's most of Adam Sandler's movies in the last 15 years.
Yeah, maybe except for Uncut Gems, where you're like,
Oh, yeah.
he's trying.
That was amazing.
Look at him try to act.
The Meyerowitz stories.
Well,
yeah. Noah Baumbach knows how to make him.
I remember reading an interview. Well, probably, excuse me. The what's his production company called?
Oh yeah,
It's
the
Adam
Happy
Sandler?
Madison.
Happy
Happy
Madison.
Madison.
Probably any Happy Madison production in the last 15 years is Adam Sandler just doing whatever he wants to get his friends together and just make money.
Yeah.
Not to make a good film, because I actually read an interview with him where he was talking about that's what he's been doing is just he doesn't start with a concept or a script. He starts with
You can tell.
he starts with where he would like to shoot a movie.
I mean, have you seen The Cobbler?
So he
on
literally
Netflix?
says it'd be sick. What if we shot a movie in Hawaii, and then they go from there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but good for him. I mean,
if you're in that position, it's like, part of me wants to be like, Adam Sandler, and judge, but then I'm like, well.
and he's obviously capable of really good stuff. I mean, and
Yeah.
I also read an interview from Uncut Gems where they're like, why don't you do more of that? And he was like, nobody asks me to. So it's like no one thinks of me when they're
Yeah, because even as far back as Punch Drunk Love, he's been a dramatic actor.
That was a good one.
That's a great movie.
Reign Over Me was another dramatic role
Yeah,
that I
good
thought was
movie.
good.
But anyway, I was thinking of the sort of anti-hero or morally ambiguous protagonists, and what are good and bad examples of that. Because I was telling Jamin earlier, I posted a question on LinkedIn, and a couple people responded about if we kind of get a lot of our morality from stories that have been handed down to us through time, as just people, then and we nowadays more relatable heroes that aren't cookie cutter or feel unrealistic, does that have long-term effects on the way people view themselves and our ethics in thinking 200 years, if the anti-hero just becomes kind of the norm, because it already feels like that's kind of the norm. It's a trend, and I like this stuff. I'm not saying I don't I like morally ambiguous characters because they feel more real or they're complex rather than the good versus evil. It's I don't relate to that as much.
I think the anti-hero is kind of the normal human character that usually descends into some type of the Walter White or whatever, where they devolve as they go. But
is Walter White a normal human character?
What I mean by that is the typical hero, the hero of the story, the one who saves the day,
The protagonist
isn't really how I don't know, how our lives go, I guess, a lot. And so it is definitely not, real super realistic, I guess, with the bad stuff. But when I was younger, I would hate stuff that felt that wasn't happy, or you know what I mean? Then when you're younger,
that made me feel bad.
Yeah. But then when you're older, you start to realize it's actually showing you, it's illuminating something bad by it's not glorifying it. A lot of times, it's actually showing, that's not a good thing by showing how bad they are, or what that character, what extent they'll go to. It actually makes you say oh, because they made this choice, they're going down this path, and then you say, I don't want to take that path,
Yeah.
Whereas before, I was oh, they're just glorifying, drugs, or they're, that's stupid. But now it's more, hey, I can actually reflect on, the perils of someone else, or the mistakes they've made. It actually makes you think the human could do that, as opposed to just this hero that, I don't know. Like you said, it's not as relatable.
Yeah.
It's hard to relate to.
Superman versus Batman, not the movie, but the two characters as heroes, right? Superman is this flawless, perfect in every way, no weaknesses. They literally threw kryptonite just to make him feel like he's not completely invincible.
Right.
It's
Then
Cody
you have
Mel.
Batman, who's this really messed up, twisted past and really dark kind of a character, and has tons of flaws and tons of weaknesses. And he's just a way more interesting hero to root for.
And he doesn't really have supernatural.
No.
Could be wrong.
He doesn't have any superpowers.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just rich.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And he knows taekwondo or whatever.
Whatever.
But
Yeah, depending on what origin of Batman. I love watching Batman Begins and then jumping into the 1989 Batman. And it's all that training so you could punch a guy once. You know what I mean? Like he's like a ninja in like Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
And then it's like you just jump to like Michael Keaton, who I think is the best Bruce Wayne. Maybe not the best Batman, but he's definitely the most likable Bruce Wayne. And then when he he can't like turn his head and he's just like the one. It's just like this like action hero punch. It's so good. Anyway, that's a perfect illustration of like the unrelatable, just like hero, like be like Superman. Like, do any kids nowadays look up to Superman, or like, well, who is the like the the figure of like of good that represents good, that's like we strive towards, besides like Jesus or Buddha or whatever, or Gandhi, but like who's the modern figure
Like
of
in
that?
fiction, like for little
In
kids.
anything. Yeah, like who are people like looking to like that? Like, because back in the day, yeah, like Superman was, I'm like, I guess people liked Superman at one point.
You got Peppa Pig.
Dora.
You got Mighty Mouse.
I mean, you got tons of them coming out left and right.
I think if you were to draw a straight line from that same genre 30 years ago to now, it's got to be a Marvel character, and Iron Man is kind of the central figure of that whole franchise, and Iron Man is incredibly flawed.
Yeah.
Thor is like the most like invincible character.
And they had to make him kind of like a dope,
Kind of
in
a
order
doofus,
to make it more like relatable. And I don't know if I really have a point I'm making. This stuff is interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. I remember watching.
I'm not saying I think we should stop with the whole anti-hero trend. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like curious to like, is it just becoming like an exhausted trend at this point that like can't be?
I don't think
I
so.
don't know. Are we losing something by not having the like, like the Aragorn? Because to me, that's like a perfect example of like a hero character who's like somewhat relatable, realistic in the confines of that world, and also like the perfect example of like what I would define like a hero, or like a man, someone to sort of like strive towards. Like I use an example in the question I asked, like Game of Thrones versus Lord of the Rings. Game of Thrones is like morally ambiguous characters who are like maybe more relatable because they're so flawed, and then Game of Thrones is like, no, like no one's rooting for the orcs in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Game of Thrones, morally ambiguous. You could be rooting for either side or whatever, or several sides.
I was rooting for the orcs in Game of Thrones.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
Yeah.
I remember watching, I think it was one of the CNN series of like, they did each decade, like the 1990s, the 2000s, whatever.
I was rooting for Sauron.
And they did an episode on TV, I think it was in the 2000s, and they talk about the onset of the anti-hero or the morally gray protagonist. And they really like said, HBO was the one that ushered in a whole new
Sopranos.
a whole new era of what a protagonist is, especially within TV. They changed everything. They changed what TV is, because they're the ones that first started with changing the form into longer form stuff, making TV more like movies, and not only just in length, but in like quality of production and budget and all that. And then also like the depth of story. It was like, their characters were much more dark and ambiguous and morally gray. And then it just kind of set the Sopranos was really one of the first ones. And there was like Nurse Jackie, Oz. There's a bunch of examples of
Dexter, and then Breaking Bad became like probably the most famous.
So there's this whole era, and that's wait, with Dexter.
Well, Breaking Bad's not
different
HBO,
networks, but point is HBO had a whole slew of them.
Once one network gets successful, the rest are like,
right.
oh, we need one.
And and then it was like, oh wow, like there's a whole. They tapped into something that no one's tried before, which is like, your hero doesn't have to be perfect, and in fact, clearly it's better if they're not. And so that's why I don't think it's a trend that's going to be like, oh, we're tired of the anti-hero, because I think
older stories like that date back like hundreds of years obviously had that same type of story. I'm not saying that that's a recent thing, but I feel like it's a recent thing in popular culture with TV and movies, And now it's like the movie I watched last night, I was like, this is a perfect example of like someone just assuming that you're going to be on board with like the main character just because she's on screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's it. There's just, with Walter White, he's killing people and doing crazy, horrible things, but you know the motivation behind it and you're on board. You're like, yeah, kill people so you can feed your family or like make money. Like you want him to do that stuff. It's like, it's brilliant writing.
Right. You're finding yourself, if you're not thinking about it, you catch yourself and be like, why am I rooting for him to get out of this situation? Like he's so.
Or Joker, when you watch Joker and he shoots Robert De Niro's character. Like Quentin Tarantino has a clip I watched online that like talks about how genius that scene is, because there's no reason for you to be rooting for Joker, but you kind of are, and you're not rooting for like just the talk show host for some reason. Like he's just a guy. He didn't do anything wrong, but you're like, when I saw that, I was shocked, but also like satisfied with him shooting him in the head.
Yeah.
It's like, that's so weird.
And I think the difference is those stories that give the time to the origin story, to like why is this person the way that they are? Why are their motivations what they are? So that you start to connect to them.
Yeah.
And like you said, you're not just taking it for granted that like, oh, since this is clearly the central character, then I should be rooting for them. It's not that. It's more like you saw where they came from. You understand why they've become the way they are. Like you saw Joker's life was just, everyone treated him terribly for his entire life.
Yeah, the movie opens with him getting like beat up.
Yeah, and he suffers from mental illness and like all these other things. And so you're like starting to like want his life to be better.
Even though if you're watching the movie, it doesn't get better.
And Walter White, you see him and he's a nice guy, but he has, his life is kind of a mess, and he gets this terminal diagnosis, and you're like, you start in a place of feeling for him. And so then you kind of put yourselves in yourself in his shoes, and you're kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, if I was in his shoes, I would do that too. Like I could, maybe I wouldn't do it, but I can justify it or understand why he can justify it. And then you start down this path, and then in bite-sized chunks, you're like, your own morals are like completely gone, because like, you're now like okay with him killing completely innocent people or something like that.
They really trick you into giving up everything you believe in from watching a show. Gotta be careful.
Well, do you think people put too much stock in movies and TV for like their, I don't know, like their own morality?
In terms of what do you mean, like how it affects us, or like?
Yeah, I guess how you respond to it, or just like, in general in life, like where they're getting that for their own, I don't know, their own sort of like principles. Or
I mean, the only thing would be like if, I don't know, people are watching like a documentary or something and they only believe that because they saw one thing. I don't know. Like I don't think anyone's like, I believe this because I watched this.
No.
This I believe in whatever because I've seen Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
It's like if you watch maybe a documentary on something and it sways you to the point where you don't actually like do your own research or like figure out what's going on and you only believe one thing. Like I could see that where, it's like just being susceptible to something that it's not, the full story, but I don't think people really, I think they like or dislike movies based on what they already believe, because your belief system's established already.
Yeah.
And that's willing to be changed.
But that belief system's established already, and I'm wondering if a lot of it comes from just like movies and TV. Like I don't think you and I maybe relate to that as much because we were like raised in a home that's like that was very important, and I think that's probably partially why I'm in the position I am now, where I'm like constantly asking people like, oh, like what's the purpose of what you do and all this stuff. It's like it's probably because like it was hammered into me as a kid, and I was obsessed with that and still am. And I'm like, am I like, is this how other people are like raised or whatever?
I think art and stories definitely have the power to motivate people in a certain direction. I think extreme examples of that are like the guy who killed John Lennon did it because of Catcher in the Rye. Like, like he said that.
What?
Am I making that up?
I don't know like
Maybe.
a lot about that. So
And you make a lot up, so I don't know.
I'm really hoping I didn't make that up. I'm pretty sure I did.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because that whole book, he's talking about like people are phonies, they're not real, and all this stuff. And like this guy, through the lens of his own brokenness and mental illness, probably.
And out of all the people, John Lennon.
Who knows? Or there's stories. I think it was one of the Batman movies there where a guy showed up to the movie theater,
Yeah.
but and there's a shooting. But those are extreme examples where people maybe they were already primed for something like that, and maybe they found their excuse or whatever in a piece of art to do it. But I do think that your beliefs can be enhanced or slightly tweaked or whatever through the use of through media. I think like absolutely.
Well, I mean, there's the voice of the director. The show itself is usually preaching something. Like sometimes it could be, I don't know. It's not always heavy-handed, but sometimes there is a message that's coming through, and sometimes if you don't have something already established, that message, if it's bad or good, could be something you absorb for sure.
Yeah, and I think we probably tend to lean more towards things that have a message that is maybe slightly open to interpretation. At least, maybe I should speak for myself. But Berlin, what do you think about this stuff?
Let's give Berlin a chance to get a word in here.
Oh goodness.
Well,
We've been talking over left and right. All right, go ahead.
What?
Oh, I'm just gonna.
I just can't.
I just had this thought.
I know we just
really can't.
I know
What
we
are you
just
trying
talked
to
about like
say?
50 different things, but like about the idea of the anti-hero or about movies, I don't know, maybe overemphasizing morality, or I know you come from a different probably background than we do growing up. So did you look to movies and TV to have that role in your life?
I personally didn't really look to like movies and TVs. I didn't follow superhero movies too much.
It's probably a good thing.
I do see the anti-hero trend it's more of a trend in my mind because video and TV and movie is developing so quickly and improving at such a fast rate that like music has this constant fluctuation of what's in style and what people like. And like just right now is the anti-hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. I also think that what we were saying earlier, I think that to what you were saying, the anti-hero isn't new. It's not like in the year 2000 it just popped up. But
in popular TV shows mainly, I would say. TV shows and then and in movies. Like you can look back and see a lot of like typical action heroes of like the 80s, right? Like that, that they were usually morally questionable people who were just like mostly jacked dudes who could.
I mean,
they were likable.
Looking up, I mean, you have people idolizing, right? I mean, that's common in sports. Idolize a sports figure. You idolize a movie star. I feel like that when heroes were more common, I guess that was more common. I could probably say like I feel like Magnum PI or like whatever it is. It's like I always watch that.
007.
Yeah,
he's like kind of
James Bond.
He's kind of like morally ambiguous.
You're idolizing these different characters maybe because like I watched that or my dad watched that or like those are the movies I saw when I was a kid. That kind of stuff could be where I think people look up and idolize either actors themselves. Yeah. Not usually really. That's where I was not really thinking. I don't think they like idolize the characters as much unless it was a superhero. But I feel like actors, sports figures. That there's so many people that are like, oh, that's a hero. I can latch on to that and be, invest kind of my not really worth, but like you're like, if that person were to fail, you would kind of be crushed. Like wow, they whatever had a scandal. Like now I'm like taken aback. Because like I love that person so much, even though you've never met them. So I wonder now with all the anti-heroes if that's going to be less common or how that's going to be perceived.
I feel like now people are idolizing like lesser famous people like TikTokers because they're more relatable and like they see them succeed at something that they could do themselves.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
a big one
YouTubers,
too, like,
TikTokers,
so many
all that. Because
channels. Yeah.
we still follow like the A-list celebrities, but it's
I
like
know,
not on a daily.
I was so confused, like with my sister when I was growing up. She was 13 years older than me, and she'd be like having Drew Barrymore on her like
Mhm.
on her wall, and she'd like read U.S. Today and stuff, and like whatever was like the celebrities on the beach, Leo on the beach with like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
know, like I was like, why does she care at all? Like,
Well, anytime I'm in the line at a grocery store and I see like a People magazine, I think that I'm like, these still with this stuff? Like,
Jennifer Aniston.
yeah, but it's not for
no, like
you know,
adults.
teenagers. It's for adults.
Adults
Totally,
are
totally.
reading.
Yeah,
and
it's for
why are we
adults.
so interested in these people's like personal lives? I don't get it.
It's entertainment. Like most of the tabloid stuff.
It's literally in the YouTube section of like all this stuff. It's literally entertainment. That's
Yeah.
like the
well,
section
Most of it's
where it's like the prince and the whatever prince. I don't know who are the people that
Prince Harry.
Meghan Markle.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm like why do we care about their lives? Like I don't get it.
Well, there's people that are here in the U.S. that know every in and out of the royal family, and I feel like almost bad because like I don't know. I'm like, oh, what prince and what happened?
I
And,
don't know.
you know, like I don't follow any of it, and there's people that know it. Like, oh,
People
no,
are
they
really
married-
interested in like Britney Spears like personal life right now and like talking about that. And I'm like, I don't
Well,
understand.
that I didn't. I always thought Britney Spears was just like.
She has something really interesting happening.
Yeah,
to
her. I
that was
actually need to
very
watch the
weird.
documentary on that because
There's a documentary, of course.
They
Of course
basically,
Well-
they basically
well-
signed away her rights.
yeah,
to, like,
it's actually an
be a human.
interesting story that I know you would appreciate.
No, I'm
Since-
sure it is, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like weird about it. It's like so personal of these people's lives, and it's like, what do we really know about?
I just want you to leave Britney alone.
let Britney be free. But yeah, no, I know that she signed away her rights.
Well,
and
I
she
think
doesn't
it's like
have
her
control
dad.
over her
yeah,
life.
her dad has basically like kept her like prisoner for her entire life. Which
Yeah.
is super messed up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's. I guess I'm always asking myself like, who gains from sharing this? Like, who's benefiting from sharing this? And then like, what do we like? Why are we acting like we actually know these people when we don't?
Well, I think the tabloid stuff specifically, that is a form of fiction entertainment. They just use real people as the characters. Like these stories aren't real. You know, it's not like
Well,
Blake.
the Britney Spears one, is that real?
Well, I guess
Tabloid stuff.
yeah, the tabloid stuff. I mean specifically, like Blake Shelton doesn't get divorced every other week in real life, but like
Elvis is still not allowed in real life.
but there, you know, there are people who consume it, and I think they know that this is not real, but it's like, it's this weird cross section of like real celebrities with fake stories.
Well,
that
it's just going on emotion. It's just like internet articles now. Like if there's emotion behind the title, you know, you get a click and it might not follow through. It might be clickbait, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
You know, the
It's a
emotion.
good point. Tabloids, the original clickbait.
Yeah, because really
Yeah.
all it wants you to do is open the page, just like a article would. If it's written with emotion, you know, that's where.
And really, what they want you to see is the ads around the page.
And you know what? a lot of times, you know, it's not even, you know, journalism really. It's just emotional headlines filled with recent facts.
That-
Like it's
that-
not journalism. It's not actual anything of substance.
I know.
You know, that's what we're surrounded by. And it's like you all of a sudden read an article and it's got merit to it because you're like, I just read this article. It's like, well, who cares? Like I could have written that and put it on a blog. You know, like anyone could have. You don't need degree. You don't need credentials at all.
I heard
that's kind of what we're surrounded by.
It's true. I heard a YouTuber talk about, you know, all of the like the Harvey Weinstein and like all the cancel culture and all that stuff, and she put it in a really good way where she's like, you know, in the entertainment industry and like movies and TV, do we think that this type of thing happens more than in any other industry? Because it doesn't. But why do we care so much more when it has to do with actors and filmmakers? It's because they've made us feel something. So we feel betrayed because we've like looked at their face and like felt something in ourselves, and we don't have that with some like no name finance guy, and it's like, oh, it turns out this person's terrible, cancel them. We're like, oh, we don't care. Like we care so much though when it's like someone like we worship people who pretend, professional pretenders who we don't know, but they make us feel something when we watch the
Yeah,
movies
or
on
we
TV.
we
and then
associate them with something.
and you feel like you know them in
Yeah.
a weird way, but it's like you don't.
yeah.
You just have this
Right.
weird emotional
If you
attachment.
grew up loving Friends,
And then you find out they are human. They do terrible things, and then you go, ah, no. It's like,
I do
Yeah.
wonder though if it's true that
Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
I mean, I do wonder that as well.
I do wonder, yeah.
But what I was going to say is that the whole Me Too culture, that wasn't more prevalent. You know, obviously that kind of thing is everywhere. But I do wonder if Hollywood isn't more of a breeding ground for that behavior.
Yeah, I
just
think it was
inherently.
built on a little bit of a, or maybe a lot of a, bad foundation where that was the norm. You know how like a company would have a culture and it's like a bad culture.
yeah.
But like Hollywood itself,
It just
putting
feels like
together
it
this
lends itself
economy of
to
gig
to
workers.
that, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, now we're getting into the Me Too stuff, but let's go. Just this idea of like, how many
Mhm.
young people who are aspiring for their goals. Not to mention like acting is a pretty insecure job. Like I think a lot of people who are actors are insecure. Like part of their motivation for acting and to be on stage and to be in the limelight is to get the affirmation that comes with that. I'm getting into the psychology of like all of it.
Yeah, I don't know if
You know,
that's fair to say, but I
let's-
know what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, like I said, professional pretender. Like I think acting is awesome. I
course.
obviously
We all do.
want to work with like real actors, and I want to like make films. That's why I think about this stuff. But it's interesting. Like,
This all comes back to one of the most influential films of our recent decade, Anchorman 2,
Right.
where Will Ferrell finds out that news is not what sells. It's
I actually like Anchorman too,
Yeah.
and that's partially because I was like, well, they actually have like
Yeah.
a story, they have something to say.
it's
Like
not
yeah.
news that sells, like actual news and factual things. It's it's hype.
Yeah.
And it's
sensationalized
sensation,
thing,
and these things are why they bubble to the surface. Like you said, like if some financial advisor was abusing his whole company, like it wouldn't be good enough news for me to write about it because I wouldn't get enough clicks, as someone who's going to report it, or if a network, whatever, if they were famous or a CEO of a company that was famous, it might be actual news, so to speak. But, that's kind of the cycle we're in, where it's just we want excitement and we want drama, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, that's human nature. Like, we're not all going to want to be, like, hearing boring, like, stuff all the time. Like, if I don't watch the news, but, like, people, they want to hear the sensational questions that keeps them through the commercial break, right?
Yeah.
What's in your stew?
Oh, yeah, that's Mike Birbiglia, right?
Yeah, what's in my stew? Broth.
It's like, pa-chow!
But what's in my broth?
Do you know what's in your soup? And he's like, well, I thought it was broth, but I guess I'll wait to find out. It's like, pa-chow!
So you're just waiting on
Turns out it's broth. He's like, oh, I thought so. I thought it was broth. But do you know what's in your broth? Pa-chow!
Yeah, I mean, that's how it is. It's just like drama, and you never feel satisfied by it.
I think
but they
he-
always hook you on the next
He
thing.
was also the one that said, like, the news should be called, here's the shittiest stuff that's happening closest to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of times, like, so if you're not someone who watches the news, you see stuff on Facebook, and that is, being shared, and a lot of people will say, I mean, why isn't this on the news? They're sharing it. It's like, well, how did you get it? Like, think about that. Like, how are you sharing it if this is not news? Like,
Yeah.
nobody's talking about this, but you're just like some dude in Connecticut. Like, obviously or whatever. It's like, just the idea that we don't always hear what's local news everywhere in the world. Like, people only think of like on a national platform. So like when a lot of racial injustice was happening, people were saying like, how come no one's and is happening? Was
Remember
in
the summer
news.
when there was a bunch of...
Remember that one time?
Yeah, good thing it's over now.
Glad we got past that.
No, when it was being talked about, I should have said.
Yeah. No, I know
More
what
than
you're
it
saying.
is now, and more than it was before. It was a national outrage, but these things were all happening locally.
Yeah.
And people would say, oh, they would cherry pick a story about maybe the reversed roles and say, why is nobody talking about this? The kid that got killed by the black man. It's like, well, actually, that was local news wherever they lived. They definitely talked about that, but it's not national.
Yeah.
You know, so we get this huge distortion of like news on my feed versus what's, you know, just sensational versus what's actually accurate. Because like even if it's being shared, it might not be accurate. So
Yeah. And even like the news on your feed, if you're like getting your news through Instagram or Facebook or any of the social media platforms, the algorithm has made it so it's specifically for you. You're only getting the information you want to read, you want to see.
Yeah.
that's how you
So-
get it.
Well, not even that you want, that they know you'll click on.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like they you know, you don't even know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
They have figured it out because they analyze your tendencies and your behavior.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So you're
So,
missing like
yeah.
such a large chunk.
And
of
if someone's
what's going
sharing
on.
another viewpoint from you, you
Mhm.
will probably unfriend them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, like I hate hearing about that person who's so wrong because they don't share my view.
Well, to that
Mhm.
point though, there probably are people who get nothing but the opposite viewpoint of them because that's the stuff that they're constantly looking
Yeah.
at. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's more about, you know, but by and large, most people click on the stuff that reinforces their
Well, yeah,
viewpoints.
you get that confirmation bias where
Right.
you're actually Googling the questions you have, which are leading questions.
Mhm.
Now,
Right.
what was the
And,
motive behind
and all,
this
all
thing?
those
Was
were-
it
all
because
those questions are being tracked?
Mhm. Yeah.
Life
Oh.
would just be easier if you just had, like, completely emotionless.
Yeah. I'll go through and like trick the algorithm on TikTok or not TikTok, Instagram,
Oh yeah.
because I'll just get mad. I'm like,
the
I'll get mad. I'll be like, my feed is not diverse. It's all Caucasian, like white people. And I'm like, excuse me, let me see some diversity. So I'll just keep scrolling. I don't even do that. I don't even
you just
do
click
that.
not interested on
There we
every
go.
white person.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Interested, not
That's what I
interested.
do. No, I just keep scrolling. I don't stop. I don't like. I don't do anything. And the algorithm is like freaking out. It's like, what do you want to see? I don't know what to show you. And it's just like keeps throwing random stuff
Cannot
at
figure out Berlin.
me. What is it you want? And
TikTok fascinates me.
yeah.
We were talking about this the other day, actually, right?
Mhm.
Because I've never actually gone on there. I've only seen
Well,
what
it's on
other
every
people.
other platform too.
It is.
Right, like people are reposting it, right? It seems to be like revolutionized and it also exposed like social media for what it's like the most like pure like just get right to the like just everyone's videos all just everywhere like and everyone's just like like you don't have to have a profile, say anything about yourself. There's no like identity. It's just like an ocean of just like check it out like
Yeah.
videos, and then the things
It's
that
the-
bubble to the surface are the things that it's like, oh, you didn't think that person existed. They do, and they have phones.
Yeah, TikTok is like the internet in a fire hose. Like, I hate it. I hate it so much because
Oh,
I
bad.
can't say much about it because I've only
I'm-
seen. I watch podcasts where they talk about TikTok videos. I'm like, how far removed from reality can I be?
When you watch this podcast back and you hear us talking about TikTok,
We're gonna
Mhm.
play TikTok videos over it.
yeah.
I read an article about TikTok in the newspaper, and that's how I know about
Yeah.
it.
I over the like lockdown, I got addicted to TikTok.
Yeah.
It was bad. I downloaded it and I like my screen time went up from like 4 to 5 hours a day to 12 hours a day, and half of that just being on TikTok. I know.
Hot
And-
dog.
The app doesn't let you out.
No, TikTok used to send you like TikToks or
Oh,
videos of saying like, you've been scrolling for a while, you should take a break, and I would just scroll past.
That's so sad.
I had to delete it. I had to delete.
You should
the
take a
app.
break. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, Netflix does that too, but it's just because it auto plays.
Well, they're just covering their ass because it's
Yeah.
like oh, it turns out people are using it too much. Oh, we'll just give them a thing. It says
Yeah.
stop doing it. It's like
They can stop whenever they want.
yeah, it's like what?
I'm picturing what led up to that. Like, hey, Joe, this guy's been on Netflix for like 28 hours. Should
My
we
son has not slept in 73 hours.
like? Should we talk to him or like? What do we do here? Like, I don't know. I guess just send him a thing and see if he's still watching or not.
yeah, like Netflix says that thing. Are you still watching? It's like, don't do that.
This guy's on his.
course
This
I'm
guy's
still
on his
watching.
7th season of The Bachelor.
Of course, I'm not watching. It's just background noise at this point.
Yeah.
But like as far as social media goes, just recently for me, not even being on them as much has been, I don't know, it's just like more headspace. Like I can actually like, I don't know, I guess it's not as drastic as, you know, maybe some people if they were actually addicted, but you know, I use it pretty commonly, but like I've just been checking like Instagram like on the weekend or something instead of every single day. Like
You
when-
follow The Weeknd on Instagram?
Oh yeah. I mean his halftime show really
That's what you were
inspired
saying.
me. I idolize him really, so hope he doesn't screw up.
Yeah, I've had to put like screen time limiters
Yeah,
on
people
apps.
do that too.
because because I will get lost in the algorithm.
I just put my phone away. That helps me. Like rather than try to regulate like the time I'm on certain apps or using social media or like being like, oh, like a few months back, I felt like I was really like blaming technology and social media for like every problem I saw arise. I'm like, oh, it traces back to that. Ah! But it's a lot of it is just like, I mean, did I go outside last week? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, did I choose to do something like productive with my time, or am I choosing this thing? And like, you know, I could delete it, but it's like it's partially how people connect nowadays. You know, like look at the technology we're using right now. It's like
the positives of it don't have to be cut out if you set boundaries around how you use it.
Yeah, it's just a lot of people don't have self-control or see it as requiring any self-control, or like, you know, maybe you should leave your phone out, you know, in your house and go for a walk, see how that feels. If you notice yourself being like, oh my God, where's my phone? Oh yeah, I left it in that.
Have
like,
you heard
you
of
probably have a problem.
What was it called, like the Twitch or something, where this guy was saying how like the moment when you feel a twitch to check your phone, the moment you're like not bored.
That's a perfect example. Where is it?
Yeah, it's not like you're bored, but it's like the moment that you have a pause, like you're waiting in the grocery line.
You have the ghost vibrate. You get the ghost vibrate on your leg.
Anytime
your leg spazzes out. You're like, it's my phone. Oh,
exactly.
wait, no, it's not.
I get the phantom vibrate all the time.
Your brain tells you to go for it in those moments where
touch
like,
your phone.
hey, there's like there's, you know, it's
touch
like
your phone.
I don't know if you watch, you know, one of my biggest pet peeves is when you're watching a movie or a show that you really enjoy, and every time there's like a scene transition, someone pulls out their phone because it's like the transition moment.
Oh my God!
It's like just the pause, like there's a drone shot or something.
Any empty space,
any empty space, any moment.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. My phone, I've gotten like 3 or 4 calls during this podcast, and I keep feeling it vibrate, and I'm like,
oh, I left mine on the desk.
Mine's on my desk.
Right now, I'm like, I really need to know what's going on.
Call them back right now and see. Put them on speakerphone.
If you brought a phone to this podcast,
hi, Mom. You're on the podcast, Mom. He's
He's posting a TikTok right now.
It was Malia twice. So I don't know.
Oh, okay.
No big deal.
Should you?
Just the wife.
That's his wife. Yeah.
Should you call your wife back and put it on speakerphone? That'd be fun.
I guess
You're like, it doesn't have to be.
But
right.
We're just talking about how we hate
I
technology.
just feel like.
Hello, you rat.
What's up, Brat?
You're actually on our podcast right now. How do you feel about that?
On the podcast?
Yeah.
I love
My gosh, she's so special.
Is there anything you want to say about like the dangers of social media or technology addiction?
I'm lying. Mine's in my pocket.
The danger of it?
Yeah, we're talking
Mike,
about like.
What are you doing with the phone?
Talking about like TikTok and things like that, like how
Closet addict.
just the upsides and downsides of it.
Mike, come here.
I mean, yeah, I have a lot to say about it, considering I'm taking a break from it, being the #1 way that I had been growing my business for over a year.
Your business is in your heart, not on social
What'd you
media.
say?
Oh yeah, she can't hear you the way that we can.
I said your business is in your heart, not in your social media. I'm whispering.
It's not helpful.
So you've been.
Do you actually want me to respond to this or no?
Has your business taken a hit because you've been slowing down the social media thing?
So, yes and no. One, with social media, I had to take a break from it, you know, because I want to practice what I preach as a nutrition and health coach. And, you know, it's holistic. It's not just what you eat, but it's what you feed your mind with and what you are spending your time on. And for me, it wasn't very fruitful. I was spending way too much time, especially on Instagram and TikTok, very addicting. And, you know, it just wasn't bearing good fruit in my life. And I noticed that I was having a real hard time focusing. My anxiety was really high. And so for my business, I have been way more productive ever since I have stopped with social media. So in one sense, I have a lot more going on positively in my business, which is really great. And I've also been focusing my attention on some other ways of building my business. That has been really helpful, like bringing it back to in-person networking. I joined a BNI, and I've been getting creative on what it might look like to build my business in other ways.
Nice.
That's awesome.
This phone call really worked out nicely. Where can people find you, Malia?
Well,
On
on
TikTok?
Instagram.
Hey, you want her to give her
I had
address?
to.
Or?
Well, definitely on. Well, you can email me. You can find me on Instagram.
Should we give our address out?
Yeah, exactly.
You can mail
Give
me
my
with
phone number.
So you can show up at my
Send
house
an
if
address
you
so
want to
people
find
can
me in
write
person.
a letter.
Give the Instagram.
It's malia.wellnesscoach.
Awesome.
And so I think one of the things that I've really learned right now too is I have a couple people. It's funny that you guys should be talking about this today, and I'm, chatting with you because I've had a couple people today reach out to me and say, "Hey, I haven't seen you on Instagram. Like, I've noticed that you're not doing content anymore. I just want to make sure you're okay." And I'm realizing that what I was putting out was actually something that was of value to people. And I think right now, like, if you're considering your social media usage, and first you have to see if it's bearing fruit in your life, but I also think that as someone who is creating content, considering if what you are creating is something that's going to build someone else up, because that should also be something you think about when you consider whether or not you should use it. So I plan on starting up and using it again, because I think what I put out was helpful and encouraging to people, but I have to also develop better boundaries for myself within that.
Boom.
That's insightful. So ultimately you continuing, if it wasn't being good for you, would not have been good for other people, because it's it's stealing something from you after a while. So it's sort of like a balance of do you have the energy for it, and is it life-giving to you? That should be probably first priority, is what you're saying.
Right, exactly. Because the more that I was fueling myself with Instagram in an unhealthy way, that also is going to cause me to not be a very clean vessel or clear vessel to create something from someone else, because I'm not creating from a place of security and creativity in my own ideas and feeling good about myself, and if you're creating from a state of feeling like you're competing and you're not doing enough and you're anxious and you're afraid of what's going on in the world and you're mad at people, you're not going to put out content that is going to attract the type of person that you're looking to work with anyways as a business.
Don't I know it?
Right?
Good stuff. Hey, you're starting a podcast too, aren't you?
I am, because that was one of the things that I was thinking of, what way can I continue to create content as well and create things that are helpful and encouraging to people in the health realm, but also in regards to faith, because I believe, health is holistic and spirituality is a big part of that for me, my faith in God. And so I felt like the podcast would be an excellent platform for that, because it's a lot more intentional and it's a lot harder to get lost in a rabbit trail when, creating a podcast, as it is when you swipe open Instagram and then you're doing a story, and then 2 hours later you realize, you haven't been working, you've just been scrolling all day. So a podcast, I feel, would be a really helpful thing to be more intentional.
But podcasts are so boring.
Are you outside with the dogs right now?
Yes.
Cool.
We hear the
Yeah.
dog.
Have you guys talked about TikTok at all?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Ironically, we were talking about it a little bit before we called you.
You were what?
We were talking about it right when I called you back.
Gotcha. What did you guys say about TikTok?
Just, we love it.
Yeah, just we're 100% for it.
Really?
No. Of course not. I mean, you know me. I hate it. But anyways, thanks for weighing in. Love you.
Thank you, Malia. And that's MALIA.
What?
Wellness coach.
Yeah.
Sorry, I heard something in the background.
I'm so far away from the phone.
Can I say one thing about TikTok?
Sure.
So one thing, because you were saying, what are your thoughts about TikTok when I first started? So I think TikTok is, super fun and everything. And maybe you guys have already said this. I definitely love creating content on TikTok and watching content on TikTok. But two things that I've noticed that I feel like are really harmful and like are going to have like long-term ramifications is like, one, it's teaching everyone to do exactly the same thing and rewarding people for doing the same thing and not being actually creative. Because if you hop on a trend, you're rewarded for that. You know, like that's what is going to go viral. So there's that. So we're not, you know, in our own creative spaces, we're just being trained to copy people. But also, with the way that it works, I feel like it's not quite the same sort of community that you create like with Instagram. Like with Instagram, you really get to know someone and a personality of theirs, you know, and like you go to their page, you see everything. I feel like with TikTok, it's a lot more fragmented. So people are just going to be entertained and have a lot more opinions. It's a lot less personal. So I think there's also like potential for a lot more negativity to be on TikTok and to be a lot more of an unhealthy place for the creator, if that makes sense.
It's more shallow.
Because they're not cultivating that same sort of like tribe as quickly as with like an Instagram page or something like that.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't used it, but I could see that. I could see how that would happen. But I mean, aren't well, this would be getting into a whole another thing, but aren't like the sort of trends of people, you know, jumping on a sort of bandwagon and people being like, oh, this is familiar. I like that because it's familiar. Isn't that sort of like human nature to a degree? You know what I mean? Like in TikTok just dials that
they
up.
tapped
just,
into that.
Yeah, just taps it into that and just cranks it all the way up.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, you know, tapping into that type of thing, I think that it just causes people to just continue to want to be like everyone else and, you know, have anxiety around, like, if I don't do what other people are doing, I'm not going, like, it's we're going to learn to get our value from that. Like,
yeah, that's interesting.
I am rewarded, I am accepted, and, you know, people like me and watch my content when I do what everyone else does. Another thing, too, like, what type of a health educator, you know, nutritionist am I going to be if I'm always doing these tiny little bite-sized clips? Like, I feel like I'm not helping people to truly learn sometimes. If I'm like, really quick, 2 seconds about digestion. Here's what I want to tell you about digestion. Okay, that's it. Bye. You know, like.
Oh yeah, just logistically, it's not like the greatest like platform for you when you're actually trying to like get to know people in a little bit more down to earth way and like make real suggestions to them, and you can't do that in like 20 seconds.
Right. Like, am I truly helping people to like make meaningful change? I don't know. Like, I think I could definitely pique people's interest, which is fun, and like entertain people and get people thinking about nutrition concepts. But sometimes I wonder, like, what is happening to our brains when we can't pay attention for more than a couple of seconds before we're like, all right, that's too much. You know?
But then you pay attention for that little amount of time for 12 hours, like Berlin was saying. So for 12 hours, you've paid attention to little tiny things, and it's wearing away at you and makes you feel like you're in a trance. And another thing of what you were saying, you know, people, I think, go to TikTok because its algorithm is very good and you can get very famous, and like by hopping on trends you can achieve that, but it's true for any social media platform, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. If you're in it for fame, I think you're gonna feel like chewed up and spit out at the end unless you achieve it, and then you're gonna get, you know, on and on, it's gonna grow worse. But if you're in it for helping someone like you are and you want to make content that helps people, I think you're gonna be really fulfilled by it. You're not gonna feel
Certainly. And even with that, like, you know, I think it's always good to check where your motives are at, because, like, and that's another reason why I was taking a little bit of a break from it, was because it's so easy to see someone go viral on TikTok, and it's like, wait a second, like, they're also doing what I do, and in 1 month, they now have thousands and thousands of followers. Like, what am I doing wrong? I should be there too. You know, like, almost like that FOMO, fear of missing out. You're like, wait a second, like, am I doing something wrong? Or like, I should also, like, I'm behind.
they're better than me.
Yeah, it breeds the comparison thing, which does
sure.
nothing good for you.
Right. And you know, like, I really had to think about it. I'm like, well, let's just say that I did have thousands and thousands of followers. Like, let's just think about what that would be like. Not that, like, I don't know, like, I will continue to create content. Who knows what would happen? But, like, I don't necessarily think that that should be the end goal, because, like, you're inviting in a lot. Like, yes, maybe you'll get some extra clients, but you're also inviting a whole lot more people into your world to just say what they want to say to you, and they all have access to you to message you. And, you know, I feel like you're inviting in a lot of hurt potentially, when in reality it's kind of like ignorance is bliss. If you're not on TikTok and you don't know, then it's like you don't really you don't have to worry about those people and all, you know, the stress that they want to add.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Good points.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you,
guys.
All right, Cody just deleted
Sorry,
his
sorry.
entire phone.
I just dropped the phone. I'm sorry. Yeah, love you. Thank you.
Love you. Call me when you're done.
Okay.
I do have questions for you.
Okay. Bye.
Also,
Bye.
we need to talk.
Well, look,
Also, yeah.
she
Also,
did say
this
she
is-
has a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
She did say that.
Yeah. No, that was cool. I see. I thought the impromptu call would be interesting.
Well-
I feel like I would not have suggested that if I thought Malia would have been like, oh my God, no.
No,
You know,
well, here's
she's-
the thing, though. Here's the thing. If I said, "Hey, what do you think about the concept of the anti-hero?" She would have been like, "Huh?" But
well, because her social media is more
Right,
her world,
we
and
asked
the
her-
anti-hero and that type of thing is not maybe.
we asked,
Right?
no, exactly. We asked her about. We just so happened to be talking about something that she has lots of experience and opinions.
Which
about.
I don't know how those two things got connected.
They're one
Oh.
and the same.
We were talking about entertainment.
I guess entertainment.
Yeah.
Like who are we? I
well,
guess
Berlin brought it to the social media because we were talking about the kinds of people that we idolize over the years. How has that changed culturally? And then Berlin said, you know, what's interesting now is that kids don't really idolize the Supermans of the world. They don't idolize those A-list top, you know, celebrities. It's really kids. It's very niche and a la carte because they subscribe to really specific individuals,
Yep.
and they're not like hyper famous A-list people that millions and millions of people know. They're people that you kind of choose to follow your favorites, and it's really odd because, you know, I've watched documentaries and things about this, like influencer culture. I shoot weddings, and I have shot weddings for a few influencers who have millions of followers and stuff, and by and large, I find the whole thing incredibly gross.
yeah,
and very unhealthy.
It just feels so far removed from like anything real.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I would say across the board, you know, I've been reflecting more on it this last year. In any area of our lives, if we put our eggs in a basket, you know, it's unhealthy to be loyal to other people, because all people are fallible. All people have flaws. All people have their huge glaring weaknesses that maybe are hidden through social media, maybe are hidden through their vlogs, or hidden through their political platforms. So, you know, it's cool to like certain political figures, to have affiliations to certain things or beliefs or whatever it is. But when
there's
you
respect, and then there's like
when you're putting these things and people on pedestals and and that's, you know, when you, like Malia said, she had to check her motives. And I think it's important for us all to think, do we believe these things because it's just what we've been told and people we idolize and things that we love, you know, like hosts of podcast shows, you know, TV shows, you know. No, I'm serious. Like people will get their actual, like,
Worcester-based film companies.
more than anti-heroes. People get their belief systems from podcast hosts more than a superhero, you know, because and if that's why you operate the way you operate, you have to say, is it because that's what I want, or is it just because I gravitate towards another person and now I'm investing into them?
I think we may be tapping into something that kind of unites everything we've talked about, which is, you know, the concept of a hero. You know, what are you getting out of that relationship, out of those people that you look up to and things like that? And I think that the moment you're looking to anyone outside of yourself, any person, for your emotional well-being, your sense of self, your self-esteem, your self-worth, any of that, the moment that is on the shoulders of someone else, whether they know it or not, right? Like celebrities don't know that you are putting that on them. You are going to be let down. And unfortunately, if you're idolizing someone else too much, that fallible person, like you said, your whole world could be shattered if you're putting too much on that.
In the end, there's really no such thing as a true hero in our world currently.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me think of like diversifying. Like people have mentors and they're like, that's my mentor, and it's like, well, okay, you know, it's cool that someone teaches you something. I think it's good to be apprenticed. It's good to be mentored. It's good to have your parents instill values, but you need to like diversify yourself and make sure that you're getting a wide spread of things,
or that fulfillment is coming from within, right? Like that you yourself are a whole secure person and you don't need someone else.
Yeah, that should be at the center. You know,
that's when you become the Instagram influencer.
Yeah, right. It's all about becoming an influencer.
You become the hero of your own story.
That's what it is. You become an Instagram influencer and then you follow yourself on TikTok.
And you make thousands of fake accounts so you can follow yourself.
And you just rewatch your own videos.
No, but here's where we bring it full circle. The lights keep going out. Hey, you know, this is going to be an awesome audio podcast. I don't know about the video.
Can we even write something where there is a realistic hero character that we actually strive to want to be like, that doesn't feel unrelatable and makes us actually want to live better? Like, that is so rare, and I think that's why I made Lord of the Rings versus Game of Thrones thing, where I'm like, I love them both so much, but Lord of the Rings, the movies, I think there's never been anything that's come close to touching that. And I think part of it is because they successfully built like a fantasy world that also has made me want to like live better somehow. And I'm like, is there a place for that anymore? You know, and like
war movies. Hacksaw Ridge, or where there's characters that are, overcoming obstacles. And
I watched Hacksaw Ridge and I was almost like, is this guy, like, it's funny because you watch, you're like, this guy can't be for real, but he was.
Yeah. I mean,
he was honestly, a real guy.
Honestly, that's why true stories are.
They can be really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're like, it's like people are used up all the fake stories. They've used up every fake story, and now they're like, we need to do true stories because true stories are compelling. Oh yeah, and they happened.
Yeah.
So it's like you can link it to like actual, like, even then people don't characterize people in the right way, or the families were mad because they made him look like a villain. It's hard to get the balance between what's realistic and the hero.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be
I like a blend of both, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Like, I really like the anti-hero stories because it helps you play out and get to know yourself better. Like, I remember the first time I watched Breaking Bad, I was arguing with my girlfriend at the time because I was rooting for Walter White like almost till the end because I was so in it. Right. And like, I was just
like, we've come this far together.
I was manipulated. They successfully manipulated me, even though the writers of the show are telling you, like, he's a bad guy, don't root for him anymore.
It's called Breaking Bad.
I was on board with him.
Yeah.
And then it clicked at one of the episodes. It like clicked like how my mind had been like warped during watching the show, and I was like, that's genius. I'm like, that's incredible. Like, that really like challenged my view on things, and like that's a cool.
Kind of shows how propaganda is effective.
Definitely advertising. Like,
it's all manipulation.
Yeah, but then there's the other side of it where it's like the hero archetype, I think, is very important. Like, having sort of like we have to be striving towards some sort of like higher good of some kind, or at least I personally feel like the need for that to be represented in some form. Otherwise, it's just like in a world of anti-heroes, you're just what's the point?
There's a whole world of kids growing up in broken homes right now who have no good father figure, no person to show them what is good and right and just, and so for actual character, I feel like as a creator, like, to make things that actually exemplify what's right and what's, good and honorable is like like what Malia was saying, it's for them. It's for people to actually, not just because, like, oh, I want to play this out and like make this cool movie with a bunch of action. Like it'll be so fun. Like you can actually make characters that instill values in other people. So I guess that brings it back to your original question of, can that happen? I think it can. I just think not every single person picks up on that, especially if they've, it depends how you're raised. It depends, what experiences you've been through. But, just like any art, it speaks to everyone in a different way. And I know for me, watching movies at different times in my life, if I felt broken about something, and this movie, made me tear up, and other times I don't care at all. I'm just like, whatever, like I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's like wherever you're at in your life, you watch something and you relate to that, and you attach to it, and, for the good or the bad, I guess someone could be, like you were saying before, they could be on the brink of robbing a bank or shooting up a theater.
They just need one little push.
And then they see a character like Joker and they're like, I'm going to be him.
Dude, I worry about that, man.
Yeah.
Like, because some of the stuff I want to make, I'm like, this is like questionable.
Yeah.
Like, who's gonna
I remember
see this?
There was
or whatever.
there was around Joker. There was. I remember there was some sort of controversy where people were like, "I don't think you should release this movie. I don't think it'd be responsible." Like it was that. It was like that triggering for certain people who struggle with mental illness or something like that. And it's like, I don't believe in that. I believe
that movie was disturbing because people kept saying that kept thinking of me when they were watching it. I'm like, oh, gee, thanks.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, they were like, Joaquin Phoenix is like you in the movie. I'm like, awesome. Like,
I'm gonna rewatch it now. Let's keep in mind.
Well, I mean, I was like, you mean like acting or like the character of Joker?
No, the character.
They're like, no, like the way he does it, it's like totally you.
His Notebook looks exactly like yours, Mike.
Well, I mean, I was like, geez, I was kind of an antisocial scribbling in my notebook. Like, luckily I'm not on like a bunch of pills, but I was like, geez, I didn't know how to take that.
It's a compliment.
I don't know. But
well, I feel like we've covered some good stuff today.
We've overstayed our welcome.
Yeah.
Kicking
If
me
you're
out?
listening to this right now, we are sorry.
Jamie, what's our run time right now? Hour 13.
Oh, that's not so bad.
That's not bad.
We're gonna get another 45
no,
minutes.
Yeah, okay.
All right, part 2. Let's talk about the American sitcom.
I do want to hear Mike's child, not now, but maybe next time, the time Mike got caught robbing a bank as a kid or
Oh,
something.
no, he was arrested for it. He wasn't
I've been
caught.
caught stealing things several times.
All right, we'll get
And
into
I've
that.
been
Left
not
out?
caught stealing things
More
many
times.
Way more. Like today.
No, I had to learn the hard way when I was younger,
Mm.
because I really did sort of like the idea of being like an outlaw.
Yeah. What was that Johnny Depp movie where he's a bank robber?
Rango.
Took me a second.
Yep, that's the one.
Okay.
The Lone Ranger?
Oh, yeah, that's the one I meant.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, yeah.
No, he plays the cocaine dealer George Young in the movie Blow.
Whoa, no, but there's an
You're talking about the true story one?
maybe it's a true story.
The Black Mass was him
No,
being
that-
like a crazy.
That's jeez, I can't think of anything right now. Whitey Bulger.
Yeah.
That's him as
Whitey
Whitey Bulger.
Yeah.
You got it.
No, but there's another one where he's a bank robber in like the
Boston native.
20s or the 30s.
Oh, Public Enemy plays John Dillinger.
That's what it is.
Oh, I love that. See, that's
that
like
was
the
what you
golden
were-
age of bank robbery.
That's what
Well,
you
that's
were
the thing.
going-
Like that era is gone. Like if I lived back then, totally be a bank robber. But like now, it's just like it's too hard, man.
Makes me think
It's
of
too difficult.
John
You're
Mulaney.
gonna
when
be
he-
like such a tech genius, and
John Mulaney it has a bit about how the only standard for being a bank robber in the 20s was you just had to not be there when the cops showed up.
yeah, yeah. You
And
just
they-
have a Tommy gun,
Yeah, they
and a hat.
They would get all dressed up like they're going to church in Atlanta. and then they would they would make an announcement before they left and be like, tell the cops it was Charlie and the Suggins boys, and then he would shoot Suggins into the wall, and then and that's what that movie is like. It's just like such a dramatic.
Dude, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I love that stuff, man. Like, I'll tell the story eventually.
All right, cool.
It's not my not my finest hour.
Well, great podcast, guys.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
Next episode, we tell our worst childhood
Oh no!
memories and
Legitimate
stories.
homework. I really want to talk about this movie. I care a lot. I care a lot about talking
Oh
about this
my
movie.
gosh.
All right. Well,
I know I said I didn't like it. I shouldn't have said
I'll
that. I
watch
should have
the
tricked
trailer.
you.
I'll watch the trailer.
No, just watch. No, just watch the movie. Because there's
Oh,
a lot
the trailer
about it.
what's it
spoils
on Netflix?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
So I watched it because it was number 1 on Netflix, and that's another reason I'm like, a lot of people are gonna
Is this-
watch it.
No.
What is this, Wine Country?
I know it's like
2?
normally I wouldn't fall for that, but it was like it was leading right from War Dogs. I was like, had a high from that movie, and I'm like, this is a cool crime thriller. It just spoiled the night.
Should have talked about my movie weekend last weekend, but we'll save
Well,
that
yeah, we didn't even get into the like
the good stuff.
movies and everything. Like there,
Oh,
I have
my
I have
fault.
so much to.
That's why we're
talk about.
That's why we're going for part 2 right now.
Yeah.
Or no.
I think it would. I think it would be funny. I'm really curious to hear your opinion on it. Your opinion and your opinion too, if you want.
If you have opinions, he wants them.
Well, it illustrates like I was already thinking about this stuff, and then it illustrates like what I was talking about so perfectly. Where you're like, oh, here's the anti-hero that is insane. It's so weird. Like I don't know.
All right, everybody. Thanks
All
for
right.
listeing.
Give
Mm.
us a like, smash, destroy,
Smash that like button.
annihilate that subscribe button as hard
Say
as
in
you
the
can.
comments how you want me to come back.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, special guest.
Berlin, where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram at BerlinPhoto_.
25 Union Street, Worcester.
There too.
Fifth floor.
I work
It's
Votary?
Berlin Photo
Underscore.
Yeah.
Berlin.
So someone already had
Photo.
Berlin photo taken.
Yeah,
What a jerk.
I know, right?
If unfollow that person.
Don't follow them.
Report them.
Report
Yeah.
that profile, please.
Yep.
Follow me. Don't even follow Votary. Just me. My feed's better.
Nice.
Okay. Jamin, you're going to have to edit that out.
Well, our feed is just pictures you've taken.
I know.
So
And we tag her in pretty much all of them, right?
Wait, what about video screenshots?
she had a little passive aggressive post last week. She was like, "I took this photo that you didn't tag me in."
Wow. Since
It
I
wasn't-
wasn't tagged in this one, I might as well
Yes,
post
I
it.
got tag myself.
It wasn't meant to be passive aggressive. I just
I know,
liked.
I'm just kidding around. No, it was a beautiful artsy photo of Jamin's wife touching the
Oh,
light
that was a great
bulb,
photo.
and it was a
Oh
great
my
photo.
goodness.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, new post," and Berlin's like, "And by the way."
I
Mike, you
took
dropped the
this
ball on
photo.
It was funny. I saw that and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I forgot to
Well, there's-
say-
don't-
give photo credit.
Don't-
No,
don't disrespect
as a
people
as a
and you won't
photographer, photo credit is
have
important.
this problem.
You know, and I apologize. I'll tag you
All right.
I appreciate
from
that.
here on out.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye,
bye.
everybody.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
What time is it?